Greetings, I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and in this video you will hear the perfect left hand. Everything that you've ever wanted to know and more about playing the guitar with your left hand. So this is specifically about classical guitar, which means that the neck is elevated. That means we're pointing the neck up in space like this. I'm using a guitar support, but you could also use a footstool or a pillow or a rolled up towel under the guitar, anything. But it's just assuming that that we have that going on. Of course, you can also use this to playing down here, but it just won't be as easy, some of the points. So if you enjoy this, please do subscribe to this channel. Well, the first thing to know about the left hand is that we're shooting for a C shape. As a general, all-purpose hand position, then we just have this C shape here. Just if you were to make, what is the letter C? There it is. It's not this. This isn't how we make a C. This is how we make a C. And so we just can have a nice rounded thing. Then you can stick that into the guitar like this. Now, obviously, we're going to, it's not going to be able to stay that way all the time, but we're going to try to make the hand as consistent as possible. With chords and everything else, it's got to move around. But we can have this neutral position, this basic home base that enables us to have a really nice place to come back to once we've gone all these other spots that we have to play. So then with this, then we can move up and down like this. So the thumb doesn't have to just stick in one place on the back of the guitar. It can move. And so with this nice C shape, ideally we have I think of this as the shoulder of the hand, where the fingers connect to the hand. Ideally, that's parallel with the bottom of the guitar. So in other words, it's not this. We don't stick our hand here and then do stuff like this, right? Instead of gluing the first finger here, then and doing it this way, we want it all to be parallel. So that ideally, this little finger joint is just as far as the index finger joint from the bottom of the guitar. That enables us to have a nice curved hand, and then we can just move it down. Now when we move all the way down, we can just move the entire thing. We don't have to scrunch or anything like that. We have this beautiful shoulder and this elbow and this wrist and everything else that we can use to move our hand around. But if we can have a home base position that we work from, then everything will be much easier. Getting from one place to the next will be much easier. If we have to do crazy things, at least then we can come back. So first and foremost, the C shape, the fingers stay behind, or the thumb stays behind the finger. Here's one thing that you're going to notice is that if your thumb moves beyond the first finger, then your ability to stretch these fingers apart, it goes way down. So if you do this kind of thing, and a lot of people who play down here, that thumb has to go out or else there's going to be wrist issues. But that's why it's just better for the body to elevate the neck. Then you can keep the thumb behind the fingers, and then you have this big stretch, right? You can just try it to stretch with your thumb out to the side, and it doesn't work as well. So that enables us to get this stretch. Now, speaking of the stretch, what you're going to find is that not all fingers stretch apart from each other in the same amounts. The 2 and the 3 finger, the middle and ring fingers, they don't have as much, you can't get them as far apart as you can typically, say, the first and second fingers, or even the ring finger and the little finger. These guys just don't stretch that much. And so they're naturally going to be closer together, and they're going to not want to spread, and that's okay. It's just the way we are. We can just do our best with it. So as you move around then, we have this C shape. The thumb on the back, before we move around, the thumb, it does not do this. It's not the tip of the thumb on the back. It's the pad of the thumb. So we want to always keep the thumb on this nice rounded thing like this, instead of like this. When we do this, it adds a lot of tension into the palm, and we're not going to move our fingers as well. So it's going to slow us down if we crimp the tip joint of the thumb. So keep the thumb tip joint extended like this. So then now that we have that, when we move, ideally, we keep that shape, and instead of going up here like this, unless there's a chord that we have to, then the entire thing moves as one unit. I like to think oftentimes of a weed eater, yard trimmer. There's got the little string that flips around and cuts all the weeds off. Well, to get over there, you don't let out more string. Instead, you just move the whole thing over there. So you have this thing that's happening like this, and then you just move it to wherever you need it. And that's the exact same thing that we can do with this. We have our mechanism, our hand, and it can work as well as it can in one spot. And then to move it, then we can just move the entire thing to some other spot, and it can work equally well there as well, as opposed to shifting and dragging the thumb or something, moving up here, and now we're out of position and it's hard to play. So keeping the hand as consistent as possible is one of the best ways to just reduce buzzes and noises and all this kind of thing. And I didn't mention this before, but in case you don't know, the left hand finger plays just behind the fret, not on top of the fret, not way back in the background there, but just behind the fret. And that's going to take the least amount of stress and energy, muscle, to press down the string right behind the fret. Now we also have this wonderful joint called the wrist that enables us to do all kinds of motions, yes? So we can also think about moving like this around, so that when we want to get the little finger, say, to the sixth string, we can rock it around like this. We don't have to go straight out with it and keep our shape. What we can do is, if we need to, we can get over here. This is a very common chord. It's going to be really difficult playing it in our straight across hand position. That is our best home bass position, because it's going to make it difficult, because this finger is so short, to get a nice curve on it so it doesn't mute out the next string, right? So we can do it, but it's hard. It's much easier to just rotate the hand. So depending on what we're playing, there might be a best wrist, arm, elbow position. This way versus this way. Now with the fingering rules and pieces, we generally want, if we're going to play notes on the same fret, like an A chord, then as the strings go down in space toward the floor, then we get to smaller fingers, so that the little finger is here and they just go in line. In other words, we typically don't cross the fingers like this, or do this kind of thing. In some pieces that kind of fingering is necessary, but as a general rule, as if you're playing notes on the same fret, more than one string on the same fret, then the first finger, the index finger, is higher in space, the little finger is lower in space, and then they just all fall in line. And you can do this so that they square up next to the fret nicer, whereas it's much more difficult with our home bass perfect C shape, because then this one is far in the background and it's difficult to press. So, in other words, there is some wiggle room within the left hand. However, it's still going to be best to get this nice C shape, to get good at that when you're playing your scales, if you're going to be playing scales. Then keeping that shoulder area nice and parallel to the bottom, not gluing the first finger to the guitar neck, and then moving as you need to and then coming right back. That's going to be the best bet for your left hand. I hope this has helped and answered any left hand questions that you may have. If you have any more, please drop a line and ask. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe to this channel and we'll do it again. All right. Have fun. Bye-bye.